Hey, it's Tom taking a look at Assassin's Creed Rogue, now remastered on PS4 and Xbox One systems. Quick recap then, we've already had the Ezio collection on these consoles, repackaging 3 earlier games to run at higher resolutions. But Assassin's Creed Rogue is one of the most interesting and overlooked entries in the series. As a spiritual successor to Black Flag, reprising its naval warfare and RPG elements, the game sadly got overshadowed at its launch by the release of none other than Assassin's Creed Unity. Both released in late 2014, but Rogue only came out on last-gen Xbox 360 and PS3 systems, plus PC, using the older Anvil Next engine. Meanwhile, most eyes were rightly on Assassin's Creed Unity, a game that showed the future of the franchise on PS4 and Xbox One. It revamped its engine with physically based materials, a new control system, and a much higher NPC count. But notoriously, it ran with a myriad of performance issues and glitches. On the other hand, safe as it was, Rogue actually turned out to be a great game with a lot of visual highlights. So today we get to see what we missed. Ubisoft promises the Rogue remaster brings, and I quote, enhanced graphics with improved environment rendering, upscaled shadow resolution, denser crowds and more. And certainly playing the opening hours on PS4, Xbox One and the 2 enhanced consoles, it's true it's not a simple res bump. Before we get into it, let's run through what those resolutions are. First, the base Xbox One and PS4 consoles run at 1920 by 1080 apiece. And there's a similar parity between the enhanced consoles. Xbox One X and PS4 Pro simply quadruple the pixel count to push out a full 3840 by 2160 on each, and I've not noticed any signs of dynamic res so far. So far so good then. Now the PC version is getting its own remastered edition down the line, and so we'll see exactly what that brings to the table nearer release. Looking at Ubisoft Sophia's work on these console remasters though, still tells us a lot about what to expect. I mean, take the original Xbox 360 version as a comparison point versus even a base PS4. The resolution bump from sub 720p to 1080p stands out clearly, but there's plenty of other changes. The easiest way to put it, all remastered versions, whether that's PS4, Xbox One or beyond, run at broadly equivalent to the original PC version's max settings, but with a few upgrades on top. That means next to a 360, you get massively upgraded smoke and particle effects on PS4 that fall in line with the existing PC version. On top of that, expect a change in reflection quality, notably a move away from the low resolution mirror image of islands on 360. By comparison, PS4 adds more ripples and waves in front of the reflection. It looks more obscured, yes, but the end result is more realistic on PS4. Next, there's texture quality. All remastered editions get the same resolution texture maps as PC at max settings, which sets it apart from the assets used on that original 360 version. And if you look close here, PS4 also ditches the low-grade shadows in favour of the very high shadow setting of the vanilla PC version. Now there's a wave of other small changes, including a push for more NPCs in this edition of Rogue, but in terms of visual design, it's clear we're getting a big leap over the last gen release. Even volumetric effects like God Rays are enhanced massively for the PS4 release compared to the stripped back look on Xbox 360. It's all good stuff, and these changes apply across the board to Xbox One as well as PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. In terms of the geometry, the model detail and terrain pop-in, a lot goes unchanged from PC's max settings too, and broadly speaking, it's the same deal there. Fundamentally, the texture assets are shown at PC's best though, as you'd expect, but for consoles like PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, you'd be forgiven for thinking they were custom made for 4K displays. Assassin's Creed Rogue isn't a technical wonder by today's standards, but those textures hold up surprisingly well at this resolution given the age of the game. Clearly, Ubisoft had these sky-high resolutions in mind when generating these assets and effects. Next to the original PC version then, a base PS4 is pretty much on par, whether that's shadow quality, textures, and even that gorgeous light shaft effect. Even so, there are a few differences. Notably, reflection rendering is revamped, again with a shader added on the remaster, almost like a Gaussian blur on the ocean. It's debatable whether it's an upgrade or not up close, but in the distance there's clearly more waves and ripples obscuring that perfect mirror image. In my book, I put this one down as a plus for the remaster. On top of that, console users get a tweak in environment level of details. Check this out. Again, PC at max settings pushes decent draw distances, but adding in the base PS4, it's clear the remaster gets a push for broader environment LODs, and also foliage draw. There are several other tweaks and changes to tree density as well, but in general the layout of the land stays in place. All told then, you don't need to go all out on a powerful Xbox One X or PS4 Pro to get the best features from the game. Even so, it looks great in 4K with Xbox One X here, and a particular highlight is that naval warfare, combining wave physics, smoke effects, plus volumetric lighting and those beautiful god rays. Visually, it still looks stunning and deserves playback on modern consoles. The question remains then, what divides the 4 remastered editions? A 4-way split shows this off well. While most visual features are shared between all formats, the enhanced consoles do get a few neat extras besides the push to 4K. In particular, shadows get a stark enhancement on the Xbox One X version, giving results beyond what we had on the original PC version. These high resolution shadows take advantage of the same dynamic time of day system, but it only kicks in on X hardware. PS4 Pro meanwhile runs at roughly equivalent to the standard PS4 and PC versions, which already look great. On the other hand, by comparison to the other versions, you're looking at a lower setting for shadows on a regular Xbox One. Shadows are the main distinguishing point then. All 4 consoles are miles ahead of the original Xbox 360 version, but the absolute best results are reserved for Xbox One X. The other difference is the use of a sharper reflection map on PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. Again, nothing radical, but that mirror image comes across as more detailed on the enhanced systems. Beyond that, again, expect parity across these 4 systems in terms of texture work and effects. As for performance, well, there's sadly no 60 FPS here, but first let's look back at what we started with on console. On Xbox 360, you'd be running uncapped, with frame rates fluctuating from the mid-20s to up to 40 FPS. It was unideal in pretty much every sense. Frame pacing was erratic, and the game desperately needed that 30 FPS cap to keep motion smooth and even. Still, at the time, it gave a fascinating insight into how the game ran on last-gen hardware, and shows just how much headroom there could be in certain scenarios. Fast forward 4 years to this remaster and everything works as it should. A 30 FPS cap is now instated, and from hours of testing each platform in turn, I've noticed no drops from that target. Whether that's the Xbox One, PS4 or either of the enhanced versions, there's little to complain about with naval warfare or the parkour sections around town centres. Call it a conservative target at 30 FPS, but it does work. You'd also hope the tweaks in shadow resolution have helped each console avoid veering below that line. After the 30 FPS lock with the Ezio collection, the return here falls in line with what we'd expect from the series. So why not 60 FPS? My theory, even on this older Anvil Next engine, these games still relied heavily on the CPU cycles of Xbox 360 and PS3 to simulate wave physics and crowds too. For the GPU side, the effects and visual quality overall shouldn't stress any of these current gen machines, even at 60 FPS. But there's a lot more to consider when it comes to the physics, where if anything should slip out of a frame's render time budget of 16 milliseconds, then 60 FPS is off the cards. Still, it's roughly what we've come to expect of a remastered job in this series. As well as that resolution bump, Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered delivers mostly the best of the PC edition with a few slight touch-ups of its own. Okay, there's a few glitches here and there, but overall I've actually had a blast with it, and it's a solid way to revisit the game if, as I did, you missed it back in 2014. Anyway, that's all from me today. Do like and subscribe if you found this insightful in any way, and as a 4K video, it's well worth checking out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net. But until next time, thanks for watching.
That's the last of them. Then let us go on. Not too far from Antiposti Island.